We've got a little history on the festival and stuff. We gotta burn something. Good day to everybody in TV land. This is Mike Hittner with Historic Point Basse Update. Today with me on my right is Tom Brehmer, and welcome back, Tom.
Good morning.
He was on a little sojourn, a little vacation, family time last time, and Don Matthews was with me last time. And today we want to update you a little bit on what past event we had was our Whodunit, the Wakely's Whodunit, which was written by Luke Conkle. It was a great event. At least from the participants' viewpoint, sometimes for those that are trying to figure out who done it, it isn't so great. But we had at least, I think, a couple people that figured out that Tracy Rice, the blacksmith, goes by the name of William Rice, was the guilty culprit in the whodunit. So that was good to find that out. And also we had, it was amazing to me, and Tom and I both have a prejudice towards young children, because out for the whodunit, not only were the adults and the grandma and grandpas, but lots of children, which was great to see. We work with a lot of the school kids on our school days, that they come out to the site and they spend either a half a day or a whole day, and so that's kind of Tom and my delight in the site, is working with the children. And so the whodunit was a great experience. I hope everybody that came out had a great time. Next year, we will do the same sort of thing, I think probably a week later. This year was July 19th, which was a Sunday. Next year it'll probably be in the vicinity of the 20-something, a week later. We'll probably go a week later. The 19th weekend tends to be the Wisconsin State water ski show, and that draws a lot of people, and I know a lot of people are a little bit conflicted about where to go and what to do, and so I think we'll go a week later and probably have a little less of that conflict for most of you out there. So thanks for everyone for coming out, who came out and enjoyed the event, and it was a great event. Now Tom and I want to talk a little bit about our next event, which is our Harvest Fair, which is on Saturday, and that's September 12th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a great event. We do the usual apple harvest sort of thing, where we actually make apple cider on the site. You can help in that process, and also the Giese family comes out and makes sauerkraut. Well, the beginnings of sauerkraut anyway. They cut up the cabbage and mix it with the salt and everything and pound it down in the crocks or in the pails, and so they make the sauerkraut, which we use at our winter feast. And so you can participate in both these events, plus all the buildings are open, and so it's kind of a great event for all of you to partake in and come out. And Tom and I like it. I think Tom mostly, since it's a little slower, we can spend more time with people. Right. We've always kind of recommended to people to come out one of the early events in spring or one of the later events, the Harvest Fair in the fall, because we can sit back and talk, and if people want to find out more information, we're not so overwhelmed by numbers of people that we have to keep working. Tom has, in our summer event, our festival, has to barter with the kids, and so if somebody wants to talk a little bit, well, they're either going to have to wait or whatever, and so it gets a little harder to do. So it's kind of fun. Anything in particular, Tom, you're going to do in the cabin? You talked yesterday when we were coming back from the site about making something. This is not for public or consumption anyway, but for on-site sort of thing, a kind of a codfish?
Yeah, been doing a little research into cooking stuff, and we'll get into the reason for that in a bit, but came across a recipe on a YouTube channel that we subscribe to on dried salted cod, which was salted dried fish was a staple in those days, and that in a potato kind of a thing, and he made a potato kind of a croquette or a patty with the potato, with the fish, and we're going to try that out. We'll try it out on some of the unsuspecting citizens. We can't do it to the public. That's not kosher, but because of the dietary or the food safety laws, but volunteers can participate if they wish. So we're going to try a little bit. We try to do some cooking in the cabin most each time, yeah, to it's good for us to learn, and it's kind of a decent demonstration too.
And this is a period appropriate type of recipe, because the only way you would have codfish, other than if you caught it fresh, and of course you wouldn't have done that in the interior of the country, you would have been in, you know, Massachusetts or someplace out there, one of those states, is the only way you would have got it was dried and brought in, and because it could have been preserved that way. And so this is a kind of a recipe that harkens back to those days, and we try to recreate as much of that as if we can, and especially Tom enjoys a little bit of this different type of cooking, and maybe that's a good segue, Tom, and talk about your cooking class, which starts in September also.
September 15th, the Tuesday after our Harvest Fair, we'll start our third annual Pioneer Cooking 101. It's a 3-week of classes and 1 week of graduation potluck, so it's 4 weeks. It's $15. That covers the cost of the food for the first 3 weeks. And the first week is very primitive cooking, without utensils, over the fire. We do a number of different dishes, and fire starting with flint and steel and other types of demonstrations like that to show you the very basics of outdoor cooking, the very, very primitive. The second week we will go into cast iron, the Dutch ovens and other utensils that were used colonial period on up right through into the 20th century. A number of different dishes. We'll usually do a roast in a Dutch oven. Mark's going to do some kind of chicken thing. I don't know for sure. He doesn't know for sure yet what he's going to do. Don Matthews will be out with his Abelschreiber, which is a pastry German pancake or Swiss pancake, well, whatever. European dish that he's come across, an old frying utensil that makes these things, and it's very good. We'll do all kinds of stuff like that. And in the last class week, we will move into the Wakely House. We have an 1857 wood stove there that's been restored, and we use it, and we will cook in with that stove for that last class. And then the fourth week, which is the early October, I can't remember the date, we will do a potluck where the students bring in their own recipe and cook it on the open fires or in the house. We kind of divide that up that second week, or third week, so that everybody's not doing the same thing. And then we'll have a feast, if you will, and you can bring a guest or your husband, wife, whatever, and join us for that cooking class. And it's really been fun. We've had a lot of people through it. Those that come, we ask that they participate with us for 15 hours of volunteer time in the next year. Now that sounds like a lot, but in the course of a year,
Couple hours here,
couple hours here, couple hours there at an event, maybe taking tickets or helping in some other way. We've got some of our costumed characters that we use now as on the site when we're open have come from our cooking class.
Yeah, I know that specifically Jim and Diane Nickel for sure. So I mean,
And several, well, Don, I think part of Don's deal is that he got into doing that. I asked him yesterday if he was going to, if he could come and help us. He says, I'm intending to come every week. So that's always good. You know,
now does Don, who's kind of tech savvy, does he film some of this, Tom? Or?
I hope so. We can. Thank you for that idea. We'll talk to him tonight at our meeting.
He's kind of tech savvy, and I know he's done some filming when we went to different conferences, and so I just wonder on the cooking contest, not all of it, but some parts of it, maybe explanations and everything, it might be kind of handy for people, because not everybody can make it, and so this can be played back at a citizens meeting or educational moment or something that, you know, when we have a meeting at the library or something, could have it open to the public and do some of those sort of things. Tom, how do they make contact or whatever to sign up for this cooking? Yeah. There is several people signed up, ready folks, and there is a kind of an upper limit, though that can be stretched a bit, but about 10 or 12 people is about it because of
Especially new participants.
yeah, space and limitations with if they want to cook something in the range that the wood burning range that's in the house. There's some limitations about how many people can get the oven and this sort of thing. And so if you'd like to sign up sooner is better, so we know who's coming for sure. We have a lot of alumni come back, like Don Matthews, and a number of people that just want to participate now because they've been through it and they want to add their own expertise to it. I know Woody comes over a lot of times for one or two of the classes, and of course your son Mark comes up from Madison area and does that. So there's a lot of alumni out there. What we also hope to do, and it's kind of in conjunction with our summer festival, which we have a cooking contest, cast iron cooking contest, is someday down the road, when you get enough recipes, is to put a cookbook out of some sorts. And nowadays we can self-publish pretty reasonably, and it's kind of a nice thing to do. And I know a lot of people are kind of looking forward to some of these recipes that have been tried over the cast iron cooking contest has been going on probably, what, 5, 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah, all of that, yeah.
So there's a number of recipes that the gals that judge it kind of collect, and then hopefully we can turn that into a cookbook, and maybe with some of the ones from the cooking class also put together into that. So that might be a nice little item that people might be interested in the future. So all of you that are cast iron cookers that would like to participate, or people that just want to learn more how to cook with cast iron and the old more primitive ways of cooking, you're certainly welcome to come to this class. And I think you get a lot out of it, and the camaraderie is one of the great things of the class. They all become pretty close by the end of the classes. And some people have commitments, and if you can only make 3 of the 4, that's fine. I mean, certainly sometimes to make a commitment of 4 Tuesdays is a little hard, but a lot of the people do. I know a lot of the gardeners, the master gardeners that we have participate, sometimes they have a meeting once a month that lands on a Tuesday, and so sometimes that one Tuesday they can't make it, but they have a tendency to make all the other ones, so that's great.
And you don't need to have cast iron equipment. There are some folks out there that are camping and that are just kind of getting interested in this. We've got lots of equipment, and some of the other people that come with the site with us are alumni that come back. You can use the equipment. It's a good way to learn, do I like to do this?
Right, before you make the investment.
Right. You don't, cast iron Dutch ovens, new ones are expensive. Right. So if you would like to try it and see what can be done before you decide to go out and purchase some for your camping equipment when you go with the family.
Good opportunity.
Right. It's a great opportunity to learn and see if I do like it. Get your feet wet.
Yeah. Tom, do you ever use that big one that your daughter Annie got for you, the one that holds about 5 gallons or whatever?
I have. We haven't used it on the site lately because we haven't had the opportunity to feed a big thing. It's got to be 2 feet across and 18 inches high. It weighs 47 pounds without the food in it.
Oh. So you can be looking at 65, 70 pounds with food in it.
Yes. We did, a long time ago, when we first did it, we did corned beef and cabbage in the thing. We had corned beef and cabbage for a week. But we fed a lot of people at the harvest fair and other things that we did there. It was really fun, but we don't get to use it as much as I'd like.
So it's a good opportunity to sign up for the cast iron cooking class that'll be running starting September 15th, and for the next from that Tuesday for the next 4 Tuesdays. So that's a good opportunity. What time is it usually, Tom?
5 to 8. Towards the end, it gets pretty dark at 8 o'clock in October, so we sometimes cut a little short. Check it, our Facebook page. Historic Point Basse on Facebook. There's more of a poster on there so that you can read a little bit more about this. And there is also one on our workshop, part of our Historic Point Basse website. If you go on to workshops, there's more information there too.
So take a look at that. Tom, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on the site. We started our bunkhouse 2-3 weeks ago, started clearing the site, and we've got the supporting pillars in there that we did, and now we got a little sidetracked since we were in the cement business for a while. We decided a few other places needed some TLC, so let's talk, Tom, a little bit about what we've been doing, especially with the 3-bay shed of late.
Yeah, we the 3-bay shed was built, what, 20 years ago?
I'd say a good 20, yes.
With reused material and the posts in the ground, post and beam kind of thing, that was built exactly according to the way there was one at the Oliver Kelly farm in Minnesota. We copied it exactly. He was the founder of the Grange movement in the 1800s. Yes. And we copied this from his shed, so it's period appropriate. It was built, though, with the old method of putting the beams in the ground, and after 20 years, they just get a little soft.
Well, and especially since they were used probably for 25, 30 years before we got them. Yeah.
So we've had to cut off the rotted part, support the building, and then we built cement piers underneath it, and then put the building back onto this, so it looks the way it did, and but it's now stable for
foreseeable
100 years. That concrete's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and especially we folks, we had to do the concrete, replace the wooden that was rotted in the front on the post, because the door situation. We kept having troubles with doors. One would be lower than the other, then we'd have to jack one side up or change the hinges or whatever. And we were playing this game, and I think in the back of our mind we knew we had a bigger problem with these posts rotting off, but we didn't want to face it, so we kept playing the game with raising the doors or lowering the doors or cutting them off or whatever. And so it got to the point where we just had to address that problem, especially where the doors were, because they either weren't closing or weren't closing well. And so those posts in the front that were rotted were replaced, and now the doors close very well and it's very stable. And now we reimagined the ice house a little bit and took some of the ice out, some of the smaller things, and repiled the bigger ones. And surprisingly, when Tom and I were in there and a bunch of our volunteers on Monday, that there was a great amount of ice in there yet, considering really how hot it was. We had probably 12 or 15 big 50-foot chunks in there, plus 50-pound chunks, plus a lot of little shriveled up ones that were on the top. But we rearranged that. We set 2 blocks aside for Spirit Walk. One of our members is going to do an interpretation of the ice house of some sort, and put those in the freezer in below the schoolhouse. And then the rest of them were rearranged and piled the sawdust back up on, because we had one corner of the ice house that the supporting beam there was rotted, and so we had it wasn't as critical as the door ones, but we had to replace that one, and we put a concrete pier in and then wood down. So actually you never see the concrete's below the ground, and the wood pier is brought up to meet that. But that's been our main emphasis, and I, for one, and I'm sure Tom would agree, we're kind of glad we're done with the concrete phase, because concrete tends to be about 24 ounces to the pound, and whether you're wheelbarrowing it, and we had a small mixer that Don Matthews had access to, or has, and it made it a little easier, but you can't believe how many batches you got to make to fill a hole.
Oh,
and so
the support for the blower in the blacksmith shop took 5 loads.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that thing.
Yeah. And so we had to put a support for the blower in the blacksmith shop, because that was kind of jerry-rigged, and so now we'll have a good base for it to stand on, and we can fasten it down well, and so we'll have that. So it's been, we started on the bunkhouse about mid-July, but then since we had all the concrete equipment down there, we got a little sidetracked and we had some other issues, so now we've kind of fixed and stabilized the 3-bay shed. So now we'll be back to the bunkhouse, I'm assuming, on this following Monday. And for any of you that like to help out or would like to get your hands dirty, or pound a nail or something occasionally, or saw a piece of wood, We're down there on Mondays, every Monday, pretty much, and other than if it's a holiday, from basically about 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock. This time of year, we stay a little later if we got a project we don't want to stop in the middle of, especially when we're doing concrete work. We sometimes work to 4 or 5, but normally 9 to 1, something in that range. But all of you are welcome.
And people can come and go when you have the time.
Right. And some people come on 1 week and we don't see them for 2 weeks and they're back again, just depending on their schedule. Because we know a lot of us are retired and you got doctor's appointments and other things you got to go to. And so this is an opportunity for you to participate in whatever level you want. And some people are, people that do a lot of work, and some physically can't do all that work, so they do more of the fine finesse and some of the finer work that relieves us of doing that, so Tom and I can be the bulls of the shop. So
I'm getting sick of that in a hurry. One thing that we're going to try and do with this bunkhouse is do it with all hand tools, as much as possible. Yes, we used an electric cement mixer to mix the mortar for the piers. Well, there's a dozen or 15 piers underneath this building. So, I mean, doing that kind of handwork would just take too much time. Right. So we did give in there, but when it comes to the wooden part, we're going to try and do it with all hand tools. We're using period appropriate nails. They're new, but they reordered. We just sunk $500 into nails, and it's a big box, but
not a lot of nails.
Not all that big for $500.
Yeah.
And we're going to be using the period appropriate, wherever possible, materials, and do it by hand.
And on the bunkhouse, which was an existing building that was on the site during the Wakely's era, was for seasonal workers that came in and worked in the shingle factory or helped Mr. Wakely with different projects he was doing. We'd like to also thank the Mead Witter Foundation they gave us a nice grant to help cover some of the costs of that bunkhouse, and we appreciate their continued support, and they have supported us in the past, so that is a big help to us that live on donations and memberships and children's groups touring, that sort of thing. So, and just to let you know again, our big event coming up is our Fall Harvest Fair, and that'll be on September 12th, which is a Saturday, and that starts at 10 and goes to 5. And we'll have the apple cider making, which you can participate in and taste, of course, and then the Giese family is there making their sauerkraut, as they usually have been doing, I think probably for 15, 18 years or something like that. And some of that sauerkraut we use and utilize at our winter feast, which is in February. And so that a lot of the things you see, the apple cider is used during our spirit walks, which are October 17th and 24th this year on Saturdays. I know a lot of you, that's very popular. You come down and that hot apple cider you taste, that's from our trees. So, we've got just about enough trees planted now, other than once in a while, depending on the year, supplementing a little bit, we have enough trees. So all the other buildings will be open. It's a great time to come down. Very reasonable family attraction for you, $3 for adults, $2 for students. Highway Z, Wood County did a marvelous job on it. It's beautiful, it's open, it's striped. Tom and I were just going down yesterday. They were striping the white stripes on the side of it. Beautiful. Now we got a super highway down to our site. It's a really grand thing. So we'd like to invite you out for that, and also a special note, as probably 2 or 2:30 on that Harvest Fair afternoon, we hope to dedicate our new old warehouse. The Wakeleys had a warehouse, and it was done about a year ago. Now the chinking was finished by Dan Hazel, who is for an Eagle Scout project, and so we're about ready to dedicate that, and so we'll have we don't usually don't cut ribbon, it's too fancy for us people down at the Wakeleys, so we cut usually twine or something like that, but we'll have a little twine cutting especially for a number of the people that donated the building in the first place. Dan Hazel, one of our members, and some of the hams that have donated the flooring and everything. So a good opportunity to come down and see one of our projects in the finished state. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for Tom for being with me today, and thank you all out there in TV land. We'll go a little history on the festival and stuff like that. We're going to burn something.